Hey, Adam Hoeksema here from ProjectionHub, and in this video I'm going to talk about the difference between active and passive businesses as it relates to SBA eligibility. So in order to be SBA eligible, the business needs to be an active business. And so we're going to talk about what exactly that means and how that's defined, and really look at some of the gray areas where there's some businesses that kind of seem passive and what you would need to do in order to make it an active business and therefore eligible for an SBA loan. Before I dive into that, just a little bit of my background. I was an SBA lender for 12 years. I made about 1,500 SBA loans during my time as executive director of an organization called Bankable. And now I'm kind of on the other side of the table helping small business owners prepare financial projections and business plans and ultimately getting ready for an SBA loan. So if you're looking for an SBA loan and that's why you're here and you could use help along the process there, feel free to reach out to us at support@ProjectionHub.com or reach out in the comment section below. We'd love to help. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the details of this particular active and passive issue here. Let's go straight to the source, the SOP, the Standard Operating Procedure document from the SBA. Got that pulled up here and I'm going to show you the relevant section. So there's a section here on types of ineligible businesses, and it says a passive business owned by developers or landlords that do not actively use or occupy the assets acquired or improved with the loan proceeds. And then it says some limited circumstances under which certain businesses engaged in renting or leasing may be eligible are as follows. So hotels, motels, RV parks, marinas, campgrounds, similar types of businesses are eligible if more than 50% of the business's revenue is derived from transients, it says, who stay for 30 days or less at a time, and if the business complies with all zoning and other legal requirements. So, and it also kind of spells out specifically here, nursing homes and assisted living facilities are actually eligible, even though they're kind of renting out a room, and those patients may stay for a long time because they're providing medical services and healthcare services above and beyond just like renting out a room. That's what makes them eligible. So in a lot of situations, the real detail that is important is if the business is generating 50% of its revenue from services beyond just renting or leasing space. And so I want to look at some examples, some common examples, and what would make it passive versus what would make it active. Okay, so here's a list that ChatGPT put together for me, kind of going through the different common businesses that are kind of in that gray area potentially. So self-storage facilities, they are very common to get an SBA loan. It's very common for self-storage facilities to get an SBA loan. And the reason that they can be considered active is if the facility has staff that are managing the operations for customer service, security, maintenance, marketing. A lot of times they offer additional services, moving truck rentals, packing supplies, climate control, in addition to just a storage space. But it can be considered passive if the facility operates without on-site management and simply collects rent. So some of these self-storage facilities are becoming more and more automated. So you may run into some question there. You probably can overcome that if you're adding, additional services that you're providing to the tenants. Car washes can be considered active if you have staff on site, additional services like detailing, vacuuming, memberships. If it is a fully automated car wash with no employees beyond just kind of collecting the payment for renting the car wash space or using the bay for 5 minutes or whatever, that's where you might get into it being considered passive. RV parks and campgrounds. Again, if you're providing additional services, so security, a retail store maybe, event coordination, short-term rentals, those can make an RV lot a active business versus passive if it's just simply leasing out RV lots and you have no additional services. No, you're not selling firewood. You don't have snacks available at the store, that sort of thing. So hotel and motel businesses, again, very common to get SBA loans for hotels and motels, as long as you are providing those additional services like lodging, cleaning services, front desk, guest services. Those are all would make it an active business. But if you just own the real estate, so let's say you tried to get an SBA loan just for the building and then you leased the property out to another entity that operates the hotel, that's where you run into, really you're just renting it out. You're not active in the business as the owner of the property. Salon suite facilities. This is a really popular one. it can be considered active if the owner also operates a salon brand within the facility and provides services. So a lot of times the owner will also be a barber or stylist, and maybe they use one of the suites for their own customers in their own operation, and then they rent out additional suites or additional chairs to other stylists. Then you could be considered active. Also, if you're providing amenities like centralized booking, front desk services, supplies, a lot of times you'll see supply sales. I think the big thing here though is, and I don't actually see it in the SOP precisely for like a salon suite type facility, what it says is about that 50% of revenue coming from transient, and that's related to the hotel, right? So if there's lots of turnover versus just like a long-term rental agreement or a lease, that's where it becomes more passive. So the thing with the salon suite is that you could have longer term leases, and so that kind of makes it lean towards passive. And honestly, to me, it's not clear. The SOP doesn't seem super clear to me exactly what threshold makes it active, other than does a salon owner need to make sure that 50% of their revenue, if they're operating out of one of the suites, does 50% of the total revenue need to be from their own customers versus the rental income? I don't know if it's 100% clear. Mention it in the comment section if you know the answer to that. I was looking in the SOP. I don't think it's 100% clear, so it may be left up to the judgment of the lender a bit whether it should be considered passive or active. But it can be considered passive if the owner only collects rent from individual suite tenants without offering any additional services. Event venues, again, same kind of thing. If you're doing value add, if you're active, so catering, event planning, decorations, on-site staff, versus like we're at a park and we've got a covered area that we can rent out, and you can rent it out online and it's all automated. You don't even need to have individuals involved. That's an event venue that's probably going to be considered passive. Billboard advertising companies, if you're kind of selling, managing ad placements, maintaining the billboards, providing creative services, design services, that's all going to be active. And then parking garages, this is pretty common too. So if it's managed with attendance, security, technology services, valet services, you can consider that to be active. But if you are leasing, if you try to get the SBA loan to build the building or buy the parking garage or the parking lot, and then you're just leasing it out to an operator, then you're probably going to fall into that passive category. So from my perspective, there is a bit of gray area here in a lot of these. And so it's probably going to be up to the lender to kind of try to make a justification. And so some lenders I imagine would be more aggressive with this than others in terms of what they're willing to kind of put their neck out on the line, because the lender is ultimately probably taking some risk there that if the lender said, hey, we think this is an active business, and then let's say the loan defaulted, that lender is going to go to the SBA and say, hey, we want to collect our guarantee and we want to get repaid. The SBA could look at the deal in more detail then and say, well, hey, this was a passive deal. This wasn't even eligible in the first place. This shouldn't have been eligible. You shouldn't have done this loan. And so that's where you could get yourself into trouble as a lender. And so, I'm guessing lenders will have kind of different thresholds because every scenario is not precisely defined in the SOP. So there's got to be some room for judgment here. And so I think that's what you're up against, is finding a lender that's willing to work with your scenario, and you got to make your case for why your business should be considered active. So I hope that's been helpful. If you like this video, I'd love it if you give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. We're going to try to do more and more SBA related content, trying to get the word out, trying to help clients with their financial projections and their business plans, and really ultimately kind of helping them through that SBA process. So we'd love to help you with that if that's something you could use. And so feel free to just reach out to us. We'll put a link in the description of the video below to our website. You can check out our various services and how we can help. All right, thanks.